Imagine this: you've been waiting, hoping, and wondering. You're replaying conversations in your mind, analyzing every word, every pause. You scroll through your phone, checking for messages that aren't there, wondering why he hasn't called or texted. It's a feeling we've all faced at one point, this ache, this need for connection, validation, or even closure. But let me tell you something important. This isn't just about him. This is about you. Right now, you're giving your energy, your attention, your peace of mind to someone who, for whatever reason, hasn't matched that energy. Yet here you are, letting his silence dictate your thoughts, your mood, your entire day. Let's pause and flip the script. The truth is, people are drawn to confidence, to someone who values themselves enough to not wait around for someone else's attention. When you reclaim your power, your focus, and your energy, everything shifts. Here's what I mean. Instead of waiting for his call or his text, take a moment to invest in yourself. Focus on what makes you happy, what lights you up inside. Go do something that makes your soul come alive. When you're thriving, living your best life, you radiate something irresistible. It's an energy that people want to be around, a magnetism that's undeniable. And here's the secret: when you stop chasing, they notice, they feel the shift. Suddenly, it's not you looking for their validation, it's them wondering why your attention has shifted. That's when they call, when they text, when they start realizing what they've been missing. But here's the twist. By the time they reach out, you'll be in such a good place that their message will no longer define you. You'll read it, smile, and realize that your worth was never tied to their response. It was always within you. So go live boldly, unapologetically, and watch what happens next. We've all been there, haven't we? Sitting by the phone, glancing at it every few minutes, feeling the rising tide of anxiety as the silence stretches on. It's a feeling that can consume you, this waiting, this hoping for a message, a call, any sign of acknowledgement from that one person. And as the minutes turn into hours, maybe even days, the weight of their silence begins to feel like a commentary on your worth. You start replaying every conversation you've had with them, analyzing each word, each pause, each subtle nuance for hidden meaning. Did I say something wrong? Was I too much? Did I misread their intentions? This emotional pull is so universal because it taps into something deeply human: our need for connection. We are wired to seek relationships, to find comfort in the attention and affection of others. But when that connection feels uncertain, or worse, absent, it's easy for doubt to creep in. That doubt doesn't just question the relationship, it questions you. It whispers things you wouldn't dare say out loud. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they found someone better. Maybe they don't care as much as I do. The truth is, waiting for someone to call or text is not just about the act of communication itself. It's about what that communication represents. It's about validation. A text can mean they're thinking about you, that they value your presence, that you matter to them. Without it, it can feel like you're standing on unstable ground, unsure of where you stand in their life. This is why the silence is so painful. It leaves too much room for your mind to fill in the blanks, and more often than not, we fill them with our insecurities. As you sit there waiting, the world around you starts to shrink. The things you usually enjoy don't feel as fulfilling. The people around you seem less engaging. Even tasks you once found purposeful can feel like they're happening in the background while your mind is elsewhere. You become consumed by the thought of what you're missing, what you're not hearing, and what you don't know. It's a cycle that feeds on itself, where the more you think about it, the deeper you sink into this emotional quicksand. And let's not ignore how the modern world has amplified this feeling. In the age of instant communication, where messages are sent and received within seconds, silence feels deafening. Social media doesn't help either. You see them active online, posting stories, liking photos, engaging with others, and yet they're not engaging with you. It's like a spotlight shining on the fact that they have the time and capacity to reach out, but they're choosing not to. The ache of that realization can feel like a punch to the gut. But let's pause for a moment. Why does this waiting feel so overwhelming? It's not just because they haven't responded. It's because their response, or lack thereof, has become tied to your sense of worth. Somewhere along the way, their attention became the measure of how valuable you feel. This is where the real work begins, because as long as someone else holds that power, you'll always be at the mercy of their actions or inactions. It's important to acknowledge this experience without judgment. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're not desperate or clingy, you're human. Feeling connected is a natural, healthy desire. The problem arises when the balance tips, when their acknowledgement becomes the foundation of your emotional stability. This is where you need to take a step back, not to dismiss your feelings, but to understand them. Waiting for a call or text isn't just about them, it's also about you. It's about what you're seeking, what you're hoping their message will provide. Maybe it's reassurance, maybe it's closure, maybe it's simply the comfort of knowing you're on their mind. Whatever it is, it's worth asking yourself a hard question: why am I giving this person so much power over how I feel? Because the reality is, while you're waiting, life is moving on. Opportunities for joy, growth, and connection are passing by unnoticed. The time you're spending in anticipation could be spent building yourself up, exploring your passions, and creating a life so fulfilling that whether or not they call becomes less and less significant. It's not easy to break free from this emotional pull. It takes self-awareness, patience, and a commitment to shifting your focus back to yourself. But the first step is recognizing the hold this waiting has on you. The moment you do that, you start to reclaim a little bit of your power. And with each passing day, as you choose to invest in yourself rather than someone else's potential response, that power grows. So yes, the waiting hurts. The silence stings. But it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to dictate your happiness or your worth. You are so much more than someone else's reply. You are a whole, valuable person with or without their call or text. And the sooner you embrace that truth, the freer you'll feel. There's a deep longing that comes with waiting for someone to reach out, a longing that goes beyond the surface level of simply wanting to hear from them. At its core, this longing is rooted in a universal human need, the desire to feel seen, heard, and valued. It's not just about the words they might say in a call or a text, it's about what their actions or inactions symbolize to you. Validation is one of the most powerful emotional drivers in our lives. From a young age, we learn to seek approval and recognition from those around us. It starts with our families, extends to our peers, and eventually carries into our romantic relationships. When someone reaches out to us, it can feel like a tangible confirmation that we matter to them, that we occupy space in their thoughts. Conversely, when that outreach doesn't happen, it can feel like a rejection, even if that's not the intention. The silence becomes a void that we're left to fill with assumptions, fears, and insecurities. The need for validation isn't inherently bad. It's a natural part of being human. We all want to know that our presence in someone's life is meaningful, that we bring value, joy, or significance. However, problems arise when this need becomes the foundation of our self-worth. When we place too much weight on another person's acknowledgement, we hand over the keys to our emotional well-being. Their actions or lack thereof begin to dictate how we feel about ourselves. This is where the imbalance begins to take root. Think about how this might play out. You send a message to someone and you're left waiting for their response. Each passing minute without a reply feels heavier than the last. You start to wonder, are they ignoring me? Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? These thoughts can quickly spiral into self-doubt, making you question your value in the relationship. The longer the silence stretches, the more power it holds over your emotions. What's fascinating is how much of this is happening internally, often without any confirmation from the other person. Their delay in responding could have countless reasons: busy schedules, personal distractions, or simply not realizing the urgency you feel. Yet, in the absence of information, your mind fills the gaps with narratives that aren't always kind to you. This is the nature of the need for validation. It thrives in ambiguity, magnifying your fears and insecurities. It's important to recognize that this need for validation doesn't make you weak or needy. It's a reflection of your desire for connection, a desire that everyone shares. But it's also a signal, a gentle reminder that you may be looking outward for something that ultimately needs to come from within. No one can truly validate your worth but you. While others can affirm it, their words and actions should only complement the confidence you already have in yourself, not define it. Shifting this perspective requires a deep level of self awareness and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths about why you feel the way you do. Ask yourself, why does their acknowledgement hold so much weight in my life? Is it because I value their opinion, or is it because I'm unsure of my own worth? These are tough questions, but they're necessary to break free from the cycle of seeking external validation. One of the most liberating realizations is understanding that validation from others is fleeting. Even if they text you back or call you, the relief it brings is often temporary. It may soothe your insecurities in the moment, but if your self-worth is tied to their continued attention, the cycle will repeat itself. You'll find yourself constantly needing more reassurance, more acknowledgement, more proof that you matter to them. This is exhausting, not just for you, but for the relationship as a whole. The alternative is to begin building a foundation of self-validation. This doesn't mean you stop caring about what others think or feel. It means you learn to prioritize your own opinion of yourself above all else. Start by celebrating your own achievements, no matter how small they may seem. Acknowledge your strengths, your growth, and the unique qualities that make you who you are. Remind yourself that you are worthy of love, attention, and respect simply because you exist, not because someone else confirms it. When you start to validate yourself, something incredible happens. The weight of someone else's response begins to lift. You no longer feel like your happiness hinges on whether or not they call or text. Instead, their outreach becomes a bonus, a pleasant addition to your already fulfilling life, rather than the sole source of your joy. This shift in mindset doesn't just benefit you, it also transforms the dynamics of your relationships. When you approach connections from a place of confidence and self-worth, you create a space where mutual respect and appreciation can thrive. It's not an overnight process. Breaking free from the need for external validation takes time, effort, and patience with yourself. There will be moments when the old habits resurface, when you catch yourself waiting by the phone or doubting your value because of someone else's silence. In those moments, gently remind yourself of this truth: your worth is not defined by their response. You are already whole, already valuable, already enough. By embracing this mindset, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of seeking validation from others. You reclaim your power, your peace, and your ability to define your own worth. And as you do, you'll find that the need for someone else's acknowledgement begins to fade, replaced by the quiet, steady confidence of knowing who you are and what you deserve. Imagine for a moment taking all the energy you've spent thinking about someone else, wondering what they're doing, why they haven't reached out, or what they might be feeling, and channeling it into yourself. This shift is not just an act of self-care, it's a transformative decision to take back your power and refocus your energy where it belongs: on you. Redirecting your focus to yourself isn't about selfishness or ignoring others, it's about understanding that your happiness and growth depend on the effort you put into your own well-being. When you constantly focus on someone else, you begin to lose sight of yourself. Your priorities, goals, and even your sense of identity can get entangled with their actions and presence. You might catch yourself putting their needs above yours, sacrificing your time and energy to fit into their world, or even altering your behavior to keep them interested. Over time, this can create a subtle but powerful erosion of your self-worth. You start to forget the things that once made you happy, the passions you used to pursue, and the confidence you had before they came into your life. Shifting the focus back to yourself is not about ignoring the people you care about, it's about reestablishing balance. It's about recognizing that your energy is finite and that you deserve to spend it on things that bring you joy, fulfillment, and growth. By making this choice, you're not closing the door on relationships, you're ensuring that you show up as the best version of yourself in every connection you have. The first step in this process is understanding what truly makes you happy. Often, when we're caught up in waiting for someone else's attention, we neglect the things that bring us genuine joy. Take a moment to reflect on the hobbies, activities, or interests that light you up. Maybe it's painting, writing, running, or learning something new. Maybe it's spending time in nature, traveling to a place you've always wanted to visit, or simply sitting down with a good book. Whatever it is, make a commitment to prioritize those things. By doing so, You create a life that feels rich and fulfilling, regardless of who is or isn't texting or calling. Focusing on yourself also means setting boundaries both with others and with yourself. If you've been putting too much energy into someone who hasn't reciprocated, it's time to step back and reassess. Ask yourself, is this dynamic serving me? Am I giving more than I'm receiving? Boundaries are not about cutting people off, they're about protecting your emotional well being. When you set healthy limits, you create space for yourself to grow and thrive without being weighed down by one sided relationships. Equally important is learning to quiet the inner critic that often emerges when you shift your focus. That little voice might try to guilt you, saying, "You're being selfish," or "What if they think you don't care?" But focusing on yourself isn't about neglecting others, it's about ensuring that you're strong, happy, and fulfilled so that you can show up authentically in all your relationships. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. By investing in yourself, you're actually enhancing your ability to connect with and support others. As you begin to focus on yourself, you'll notice a remarkable shift in how you feel and how others perceive you. When you're living a life that feels full and meaningful, you radiate a confidence and contentment that is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who are passionate, self assured, and at peace with themselves. You become someone who inspires others, not because you're trying to, but because you're genuinely happy and grounded. This shift also changes the dynamics of your relationships. When you're no longer fixated on someone else's actions, you remove the pressure from the relationship. You're not constantly seeking validation or chasing their attention. Instead, you're showing up as a whole, confident person who knows their worth. This often leads to healthier, more balanced connections where mutual respect and appreciation can flourish. It's worth noting that focusing on yourself doesn't mean you won't occasionally think about the other person or feel the pull of old habits. Growth is not linear, and there will be days when it's challenging to keep the focus on you. That's okay. What matters is recognizing those moments and gently bringing your attention back to what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your choices. As you continue this journey, you'll find that the things you used to worry about, the unanswered texts, the missed calls, start to lose their hold over you. You'll realize that your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's attention or approval. It comes from within, from the choices you make each day to prioritize your own well being. In the end, focusing on yourself is one of the most empowering decisions you can make. It's a declaration that you are worthy of your own time, energy, and love. It's a commitment to living a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful, no matter who is or isn't in it. And as you embrace this mindset, you'll not only transform your own life, but also inspire those around you to do the same. Self-worth is a concept that goes beyond how others perceive us or how much we are validated by the people in our lives. It's the intrinsic value we place on ourselves, the recognition of our own strengths, and the acknowledgement that we are deserving of love, respect, and happiness, regardless of external factors. In many ways, self-worth is the foundation upon which all other aspects of our lives are built. Without a strong sense of self-worth, everything else can feel unstable, uncertain, and fragile. When we rely too much on external sources for our validation, it becomes easy to forget just how much value we hold on our own. At its core, self-worth is not something that is given to us by others, it is something we must cultivate from within. Unfortunately, many of us are conditioned to seek validation and approval from others, whether it's our families, friends, or romantic partners. From childhood, we learn that praise, recognition, and positive reinforcement are often the ways in which we measure our value. While external affirmation is important in certain contexts, it can also create an unhealthy cycle where our worth is constantly dependent on the opinions of others. This can be a dangerous trap, as other people's perceptions of us can shift, change, or even be influenced by things beyond our control. When we place too much emphasis on how others view us, we begin to base our own worth on external measures like achievements, appearances, or relationships that may not fully reflect who we are as individuals. This reliance on external validation can lead to feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or anxiety. We may feel unworthy if we don't receive the affirmation we desire, and that sense of worthlessness can have a lasting impact on our mental and emotional well being. Moreover, the fear of rejection or the anxiety of not living up to others' expectations can prevent us from fully embracing our true selves. The journey to building self worth starts with a shift in perspective. Instead of waiting for others to tell us that we are worthy, we must learn to recognize our own value independent of anyone else's opinions. This process requires deep introspection and self reflection. It involves understanding that we are inherently valuable simply because we exist, not because of what we do, what we have, or how others perceive us. This can be difficult, especially in a world that constantly tells us that our worth is tied to our success, appearance, or relationships. The key to cultivating self worth lies in self acceptance. Self acceptance is the ability to embrace who we are, flaws and all. It's about recognizing that we don't need to be perfect in order to be worthy of love and respect. We don't need to meet anyone's expectations or conform to a set of societal standards to be valuable. We are worthy because we are human and because we are deserving of love, respect, and happiness by virtue of our existence. A crucial aspect of developing self-worth is letting go of comparison. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with images of success, beauty, and happiness on social media, in the media, and in the lives of those around us. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, measuring our lives against their accomplishments, relationships, or appearance. However, comparison is often the thief of joy. It diminishes our sense of worth by convincing us that we don't measure up. The truth is that each person's journey is unique, and comparing ourselves to others does nothing but undermine our self-esteem. Instead of looking outward for validation, we need to turn inward and recognize that our value comes from within. Another important aspect of building self-worth is practicing self-compassion. We are often our own harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards and berating ourselves for our mistakes or shortcomings. But the truth is that no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes and everyone has areas for growth. The key is not to judge ourselves for our imperfections, but to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. When we practice self-compassion, we give ourselves the space to grow, learn, and become better without the fear of harsh judgment or failure. One powerful way to build self-worth is through positive self-talk. The thoughts we think about ourselves shape our reality. If we constantly tell ourselves that we are not good enough, that we are unworthy, or that we will never succeed, we are reinforcing negative beliefs about ourselves. However, if we begin to replace those thoughts with positive affirmations, we start to rewire our minds and build a healthier, more empowering narrative about who we are. This doesn't mean we ignore our flaws or shortcomings, but rather that we choose to see ourselves through a lens of love and acceptance. Another important practice is setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They are a way of saying, I value myself enough to protect my energy, my time, and my emotional well-being. When we have a strong sense of self-worth, we are more likely to establish boundaries that protect us from toxic relationships or situations. We learn to say no when necessary and to prioritize our own needs without feeling guilty or selfish. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love, and it is essential for maintaining our emotional health and self-esteem. Building self-worth is not a one-time achievement, it is an ongoing process. It requires patience, practice, and a willingness to confront the negative beliefs and self-doubts that may have accumulated over the years. It also involves learning to embrace the fullness of who we are, the good, the bad, and everything in between. When we accept ourselves as we are without conditions, we unlock a profound sense of inner peace and confidence. Ultimately, when we recognize our own worth, we no longer need to seek validation from others. We can show up as our authentic selves, knowing that we are deserving of love, respect, and happiness, no matter what anyone else may think. And in doing so, we create a life that is not defined by the opinions or actions of others, but by the strength, beauty, and value we carry within ourselves. The idea of living a life that is not centered around proving ourselves to others is both a liberating and empowering concept. In a world that constantly encourages us to measure our worth based on external achievements, appearances, and comparisons, the notion of shifting our focus to self-improvement, rather than self-proving challenges the very foundation of how we often approach life. This shift allows us to free ourselves from the constant pressure to validate our worth to others and instead focus on becoming the best versions of ourselves for our own sake. For many, the urge to prove oneself can be overwhelming. From a young age, we are conditioned to perform for approval, whether it's from our parents, teachers, peers, or society at large. Achievements, grades, appearances, and social status all become measurements of success. We internalize these expectations, and as we grow older, they evolve into an ongoing drive to prove ourselves. We find ourselves constantly working to show others that we are worthy of respect, recognition, or affection. This mentality often leads to burnout, dissatisfaction, and a sense of emptiness because no matter how much we achieve or how hard we work, there's always more to prove. Living a life based on proving ourselves can create a cycle of perpetual striving with no real sense of fulfillment. It becomes about what others think, what they expect, and how we are seen in their eyes. We place our worth in the hands of others and allow their opinions to dictate our self-esteem. We feel the need to constantly live up to their standards and expectations, all the while neglecting our own desires, passions, and dreams. As a result, we become trapped in a cycle of validation seeking, always chasing after the next approval or recognition, never truly satisfied with what we have accomplished because the goalposts keep moving. On the other hand, focusing on self-improvement rather than self-proving is about making personal growth a priority. It's about setting goals for yourself based on what you want to achieve, not based on what others expect of you. It's a mindset that emphasizes progress over perfection and growth over external approval. Rather than seeking to impress others, you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, someone who is continuously evolving, learning, and becoming more aligned with your own values and purpose. Self-improvement isn't about competing with others or meeting external standards. It's about measuring your success against your own potential. It's about pushing yourself to be better today than you were yesterday, not for recognition or praise, but because you know that growth brings a deeper sense of fulfillment. It's a journey of self-discovery where you identify your strengths, acknowledge your weaknesses, and take intentional steps to improve simply because it brings you joy, satisfaction, and a sense of accomplishment. When we focus on self-improvement, we shift from an outward, externally driven goal to an inward, intrinsically motivated one. This change in focus can be profound as it frees us from the need to perform for others. We stop viewing ourselves through the lens of others' expectations and start seeing ourselves as a work in progress, a project that we are nurturing, developing, and evolving. This mindset allows us to set realistic and meaningful goals that align with our values and passions, rather than simply trying to meet the arbitrary standards of success that society imposes. Focusing on self-improvement also fosters a sense of self-compassion. We begin to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding rather than criticism or judgment. We recognize that growth is a process and that we are allowed to stumble and fall along the way. In fact, mistakes and failures become valuable learning experiences that inform our journey. Instead of being defeated by setbacks, we embrace them as opportunities to grow and improve. This shift in perspective helps us develop a healthier relationship with ourselves and with our progress as we learn to appreciate the effort we put in rather than only valuing the outcome. Another key aspect of self-improvement is setting boundaries. When we are focused on proving ourselves to others, we often allow ourselves to be pulled in many different directions, trying to meet the needs and expectations of everyone around us. We overcommit, stretch ourselves thin, and lose sight of our own priorities. But when we focus on self-improvement, we become more discerning about where we invest our time and energy. We learn to say no when necessary to protect our own well-being and personal growth. This is not about being selfish or neglecting others. It's about understanding that in order to grow, we must make space for ourselves to thrive. The process of self-improvement requires self-awareness. It involves taking the time to reflect on who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. It's about understanding your own values, passions, and desires and aligning your actions with those principles. This self-awareness helps you make decisions that are in your best interest rather than based on the opinions of others. It also allows you to recognize areas where you need to improve and to take proactive steps to develop those areas. Whether it's learning a new skill, improving your physical health, or working on your emotional intelligence, self improvement is about identifying opportunities for growth and taking responsibility for your own progress. One of the most powerful aspects of focusing on self improvement is the sense of empowerment it brings. When you shift the focus from proving yourself to others to improving yourself for your own benefit, you begin to feel more in control of your life. You take ownership of your actions, decisions, and outcomes. This empowerment doesn't come from the recognition or validation of others, but from the realization that you are capable of creating the life you want on your own terms. It fosters a deep sense of self respect and confidence that is grounded in your own abilities and efforts, not in external approval. As you embark on the journey of self improvement, you begin to realize that life is not a competition with others. It is a personal journey of growth, learning, and becoming. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth or measure your success against others. Instead, you define your own success based on your progress and growth. This sense of freedom allows you to live more authentically and to build a life that aligns with your true self, rather than one that is built on the opinions or expectations of others. In the end, focusing on self improvement rather than self proving is the key to living a fulfilling and meaningful life. It's about putting yourself first, embracing your own potential, and continuously striving to be the best version of yourself, not for the sake of impressing others, but for your own personal growth and happiness. In conclusion, the journey from proving oneself to focusing on self improvement is a profound shift that can completely transform how we approach life. It is a transition from seeking external validation to fostering internal growth. By redirecting our energy from trying to measure up to others' expectations to prioritizing our own development, we empower ourselves to live authentically, driven by our values and desires rather than the need for approval. This shift not only allows us to build a deeper sense of self-worth and fulfillment, but it also fosters greater peace of mind. We stop comparing ourselves to others and instead embrace the beauty of our individual journeys. By focusing on improvement, not perfection, we allow ourselves the grace to learn from our mistakes and grow stronger with each step. Our progress becomes measured by personal milestones, not by the standards set by others. Ultimately, living a life centered around self-improvement rather than self-proving enables us to cultivate a stronger, more resilient sense of self. It empowers us to pursue our goals with authenticity, confidence, and a genuine sense of purpose. In doing so, we not only become the best versions of ourselves, but also inspire those around us to do the same. This path is not just about achieving success, it's about creating a life that is truly fulfilling, one built on growth, self-respect, and an unwavering commitment to becoming the person we are meant to be.